Okay, now let me mute everybody out temporarily here. See, mute. Got it. Mute. Off. Okay, you're a co-host. I'm going to make Tyler a co-host. One second. Oops. Tyler, co-host. Okay. And let me find Tyler.
Hey, David.
There you are. All right. Well, let me I'm gonna spotlight you, Tyler. Hold on one sec.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. We'll spotlight you. We're gonna spotlight Debbie. We're gonna spotlight me. We're recording. And hey, awesome.
How
Thank
we
you for
doing?
being here.
I'm super happy to be here with you.
Where are you?
I'm actually in a conference room in California for a good friend of mine that asked for some help on his business. So I flew down here to help him. And yeah, so you're catching me completely off home court advantage, but I'm happy to join. The good news is I can join from anywhere.
I know, and thank you. We were going to try to do this last night on our team call, and I knew this trip came up for you, and it was very gracious of you to say, look, we really want you. We want you. People want to the ones that are not coming to the fly-in. I hope that they do. We have a team day fly-in out at corporate on April 17th, and Frank and Daryl they expanded it because the max is 35, as you know, and we
Yep.
were at 40, busting at the seams, thinking people would back out. And we had 6 people that wanted to come. One from India wants to come. And so I begged, and now we've expanded it to 60 people. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in 28 days. I'm going to see you.
I can't wait. That'll be
Awesome.
awesome.
Well, Debbie and I want to thank you for being here. And I know your schedule's really full. You got a lot of people at 70 some people on here, almost 80 people. And we're recording this for the people overseas that can't be on live at this time. But there are a lot of people, Tyler, that haven't met you yet. And I always say that the product proved itself to me and Debbie back when Debbie introduced it to me. And that was a no-brainer. It worked, but I had to really believe in the ethics of the people. And Debbie, you remember telling me that this was not just a multi-level marketing company. You said it's a biotech company with a breakthrough for humanity, and you got to meet these people. You have to meet Vertus, you have to meet Tyler, and after the product proved itself, I flew out and I did meet you and your dad, and I said, I'm in. And it changed things for me. That's why we have those team days to bring them out there. But a lot of people are not going to be able to come to the team day. There's still openings, but thanks for being here because I want at least they can get a feel for why, if they're new, why we're so passionate about this and why Debbie and I have dedicated our lives to this until it becomes mainstream. When it becomes mainstream, they don't really need people. They don't need us anymore, you know?
Mhm.
But just a few. I know you got limited time. Anything you want to open with? Because I got a couple questions to ask you.
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is how much I love and appreciate the two of you, and maybe for the people on the call that are just getting to know you. I consider Debbie and David as dear, honestly, as close to family as I could have with not being genetically tied to them, which lucky for them, neither of them are for me tied to me. But I do say that there comes a time in your life, the older you get, the more you value dear friends and people that through thick and thin have demonstrated their commitment to, to one another and to goodness is probably a thing that comes to my mind. I don't know of two better people on the planet than the two of you. So I want to start by just acknowledging my gratitude to you two for the way you've enriched my life, been good friends, and I just love the two of you with all my heart. So let me start there. Uh,
Go
Thank you,
ahead,
Tyler.
Deb.
No, I just said thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it. I mean it sincerely.
I feel the
Uh,
same about you and your family.
yeah, it means a lot. You're
Thanks
two
a
very
lot to
very
us.
special people. And it means a lot to me that the two of you have invested so much into this from the beginning and created the conditions where you've given so much of your unique gifts and talents in your life to something my dad wanted to do. And that's no small thing. It's humbling when you stop and think about it. Even if we just added up the minutes and hours and days and months of people's lives collectively that have invested in trying to further this vision around the world. It's staggering to me to think of the collective efforts. And the one common denominator is to lift and elevate humanity. I mean, honestly, that is it. And when Debbie talks about us being a biotech company that chose to distribute through people, that is 100% accurate statement. We went to do a strategy session for a biotech company. We banged into this technology. The technology was both elegant and almost dismissible. It was like, are you kidding me? Like a saltwater-based product. And the further we get into this business now, 15 years into it, I just can't believe how prescient and visionary my dad was to commit himself to this. And I can tell you from a lot of recent interactions in professional communities, we have technologies that are dead center in the fairway of the need of the world, coming off post-COVID, long COVID, the challenges that are associated with so many different things right now. We have some really powerful technologies that are there to help people. So I love knowing that we're invested in an endeavor that allows for meaningful relationships, much like I feel about the two of you. It allows for us to go out and provide something to people that I think inspires hope and really can be a solution for a pretty broad range of challenges. It creates an economic opportunity I don't think is going away. I think it's only going to get bigger. And I just feel really humbled to be a part of it. It gets better. It's only getting better.
Well, you know what? I think that's good. We're done. That's the questions I have are kind of almost insignificant because that's really what I got when I met you. And when people come to the conventions and they meet the people, Scott and everybody running the company, it's like family. I mean, you know, it is because you and I have some deep conversations about things that have nothing to do with ASEA whatsoever, none. And we both love you very much and your family. And just grateful that you and your dad said no to the pharmaceutical offer and other offers that have come because you're scared and concerned that you take a lot of money and someone promises they're going to bring it to the world and then they get a bigger offer and it gets buried and you know, maybe people continue to suffer. But one of the questions I was going to ask you was about the MLM model, right? Why you did people to people. But also you talk about next level marketing versus multi-level marketing. I don't think you and your dad were really familiar with multi-level marketing, except maybe, you know, the Amway guy or whatever. I'm not knocking Amway in any way, but
Sure.
you know, hey, come to this opportunity meeting. Is it Amway? No. Is it international business? Is it Amway? No. It's international. You go and it's an Amway meeting and they're drawing circles on the board and a lot of exaggeration and hype and things like that. Did you have concerns about bringing it to the world multi-level marketing? And if you did, because that's not what I find here. I have done that before. This is very different. What was in your mindset when you decided to do it? And then when you got in, what did you decide you wanted to, what did you envision it being?
I was super worried about this approach to distribution. Not from what I would consider to be a terribly informed position, but I had enough exposure and experience to know that there's a side of this industry that over promotes and under delivers and is really plays to maybe economic motivations and unrealistic expectations. And so I was concerned about that. On the other hand, when you have a product as unique and nuanced as our product is, in a world where, you know, that which was known and understood and accepted in 2010, 2009, this was so new. It's as a category creator. I'm starting to see actually for the first time more knockoffs trying to come into this space as redox has finally kind of, I think, come to the fore. But no, I was really concerned about it. My dad is confident enough. You've heard the phrase sometimes when a person may be wrong, but they're not in doubt. You know, my dad, his whole life long, try growing up with a guy like that. It's not the easiest thing to do. He can be 100% wrong, but he's confident that he's right. And in that regard, I think when someone suggested to him to consider this approach, He has really, really good instincts, and I think he knew. Think about it. He had 35 years in consumer packaged goods. He created Crystal Light and literally created, that was one of the most amazing product launches in General Foods history. He knew how to create a product that would otherwise be sold through traditional retail channels. I mean, so if the whole notion of you do what you did prevails, he would have never done this. But he's also really smart to know that this particular product would require a voice, it would require a share, it would require a meaningful personal experience. And because he had all the research on safety and toxicity and genotoxicity, and he knew it was super safe, he just knew that it was going to need to be shared, not bought. And that if it was put on a shelf somewhere, somebody's going to just walk past it with their cart, and be like, whatever, I don't even know what that is. So somehow you have to get the real essence of what that product is out to the world. And I think he was, again, I don't know a lot of people that would dare to do what he did. I didn't, you guys know, I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was going to be a last chapter in the book of his life that was not a great read. And it's been the best chapter of his life. But he had to believe in the ability of people to share from a place of conviction what the product could do, and that's exactly what you guys have done.
Yeah. And then with regards to, there's a lot of over promising and so forth. And I spoke with someone today, Tyler, I'm going to introduce you to, who was kind of looking at this, and he was very successful in this industry. And he said to me, I can't remember the quote, but he said, it's not transactional. It's transformational.
Mhm.
And I, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what you talk about. Can you just give a couple like examples of why you see this is different than the typical MLM? Because we talked to a lot of people, they're like, oh, this is MLM. I've been there, done that, or I was bothered by somebody or whatever. I mean, what, like I say, your vision of what MLM classically is known as, and they're good companies and a lot of good people in MLM, right? But there's this stigma. Maybe a couple examples, and I've got a whole recording of you, but what jumps out at you is what you want it to be.
Yeah, I think when I think the first thing you have to ask yourself, I like the idea of something having substance and being substantive. I think there's a lot of times when the marketing engines of the world around us are selling a top spin or something that lacks substance. So the first thing is, do we have something that we can claim and point to as having an impact in a favorable way? That part for me is the first part. Knowing that the product we bring to the marketplace, and I'm speaking primarily to the Renew 28 and ASEA Redox supplement products, but I think we have a broad range of them. But let me lead with those two technologies because they are our flagship products. When you have something with substance, great substance, that has the ability to impact people's lives, that's number one. That's just absolutely number one. How differentiated is it? Well, there's no one else that has it. And no one has for the last 15 years. I would have thought 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, somebody would have been trying to parallel path this. What's happened over those 15 years is we've kind of lapped any competition standing still. So we have a really, really nice head start on not just what it is or how to use it or the safety of it, but we also know how to make it with high quality assurance. So when you have something like that, and then you step into a business model like network marketing that historically hasn't had that, I think you have to ask yourself, okay, how do we approach it in such a way that we stay above the fray of a lot of Me Too products and we make it a substantive real business with a substantive real product? And to me, that speaks to the culture, the way we do what we do. I mean, how we get a result is as important as the result itself, actually caring about the how, not wanting to over promote or overstate or be unfair in any way. And at the same time, giving people the context they need, the resources they need, the support that they need to actually venture into this space and have a different type of experience than what they've had in the past. The fact that everyone's tried it or heard of it and then dismisses it as it doesn't work, I kind of think you can't leave a room you were never in. And I don't know that people have actually tried network marketing the right way with a substantive product, a substantive culture, and not let themselves feel like they were on trial with any interaction they have, which I think is inspired from a place of conviction and confidence that what you have is substantive. What you have deserves the best attention from someone. I like to think of it as no person we ever meet is too good for this business. Think about that for just a minute. No person you meet is too educated for this business. No person you meet is better than this business. Anyone that's looking down their nose at this approach to business, right, is coming at it from a place of bias and ignorance. That's the truth. Because anyone who knows what I know and seen what I've seen knows that the substance of what we have in our technology, the substance of what we have in our ability to distribute it, the low cost and barrier to entry, you can't find a resource stack in support of an entrepreneurial venture better than this. And then so if a person is going to actually act as though they're superior to this approach to business, I'm ready to arm wrestle with that. Now, if somebody wants to choose out of it, that's a preference choice. But and I always tell my kids, you can't make a preference, call on a principle. So first thing you have to understand is principles trump preference. My kids are like, well, I would prefer to stay out till 1 a.m. when I tell them they need to be home at midnight, right? Well, that's your preference. But the principle is what I'm going to tell you. This is the principle, is you live in my home. And if you'd like to continue to sleep in my home, right, you're going to play by my rules. There's the principle. So what's the difference between a preference and a principle? Well, what happens if someone says, they kind of cheat and say, well, I would prefer not to do business this way. That's a preference. But if they act like our business is a violation of principle, they're wrong. So I have no problem if someone says, I prefer not to do this type of industry or business. That's fine with me. But if they act as though this way of doing business is a violation of principle, now we got a problem.
Well, you mentioned the word principle because this was something that a lot of people have heard. We talk about it all the time in every presentation we do. Danielle and I do a Zoom every Saturday with a Q&A, 30 minutes on answering questions about the product and how to use it properly, and then 30 minutes on the opportunity side of it. And it really, she does it such an elegant way, Danielle Matthews. But we always have on any of our slides, it's a P over E company, and we define it. Would you mind defining that for people that may have not heard you talk about what P over E means to you as in this corporation?
Yeah, so it's a simple framework where for a lot of years it was more observation than it was declaration. It was me observing, like, why were some people succeeding professionally over a sustained and enduring amount of time? And I started to see that the people that had like flash in the pan type success were the people that might have compromised principles, which is the P reference you're talking about. Principles for me are things like any concentrated truth, honesty, civility, humility, kindness, service, hard work, wisdom, substance, these kinds of things that you say, any endeavor that's principle based has the potential to endure. So if you're going to be principle based, it's going to mean you're going to align yourself with truth and you're going to stay committed to truth. What happens is at some point, principles can be at odds with E or economics. And I'm going to use ego and economics as kind of kissing cousins one with another. So if you said, over the years, I observed in my financial career, which was the first half of my career, I saw people that would trade principles for economics. And they would be like, you know what, I'm willing to be less than truthful about a financial outcome or a product's delivery in an attempt to sell it and create an incidence of revenue for me. And what would happen is they would just get in this cycle where they were trading off of their principles for ego and economic gratification. The people that I found that were deeply committed to and staying in alignment with principles and would not violate those principles in service of ego or economics had sustainable, beautiful business practices. But it took longer. And the reality was, by virtue of them holding true to principles, they had become more. So that's why I've always said, like, the outcome is not income. The outcome is overcome, become, and income. Now, please don't think that I don't agree with the idea that we all need to make money. Like I don't see that as a problem. I want you all on this call to be very well paid. In fact, I believe the more good people making more money is how we change this world. I don't want more bad people making more money because I think enough of that's already happening. Most of those people are doing that by cheating on principles. And there's a lot of that goes on in almost virtually every industry we see. So, when we started the company, I said, what would it look like if we had the most substantive products of anybody in the industry? We had the most substantive financial opportunity for someone with an entrepreneurial spirit who believes they can do and be more. And we had a cultural premise and commitment to making principled decisions as often as we can. And I blow it every day, but we're trying really hard to say, are we a principle-based company, or are we simply motivated by the ego and economics? And I think the industry as a whole, maybe not on the whole, but certainly a large percentage of the industry is indictable for being an E over P. That is, ego and economics are more important than principles. And I think there's a high ground that the industry has given up, because I don't know of another industry that's more aligned with human development and relationship acceleration than this. And so if you said, this might be the best opportunity for me to invest in and develop new relationships, meaningful, enduring relationships in my life with like-minded, beautiful people who are engaged in a unified and shared vision of going out and lifting humanity through products that can help people that are dealing with serious challenges, or financial opportunity, and inside of a culture that's got its own checks and balances, that does a really good job at shining the mirror and inviting you to do the same. And if you do that well, if you're at least honest enough to take the hard feedback, or honest enough to check in with your motives, I call it motive management. A really well motive managed business tends to have a soul. And a really poorly motive managed business tends to have no soul. And if motive dwarfs, if motive is economic and ego and me, that motive management is really no management at all. It's motive abandonment. It's just like, whatever I want is what I'm going to do. And if everybody is doing that, you've created an ecosystem, not an ecosystem. And there's a huge difference between an ecosystem and an ecosystem. Ecosystems define everything so self-centered that they create the collective problems we deal with at a massive level. And I'm talking about climate, I'm talking about our planet, I'm talking about really bad enmity and negative and rough political discourse. These are all born from a lack of motive management. And they're all born from feeding ecosystems instead of embracing and nurturing ecosystems. Eco comes from the Greek word of oikos, which is the whole house. So I look at this and say, it takes a certain amount of social responsibility to say, I have a substantive set of technologies that I believe can help people in a broad range of need. I have an opportunity for people to transact those products and be paid for them, as well as to engender and build meaningful long-term relationships. And I'm building a culture of an ecosystem, not an ecosystem. And if I was true to that thesis, like I genuinely meant it, I would by definition be strategically advantaged on all three levels. That is to say that any competitor trying to play with me would be strategically disadvantaged. It would be an uneven playing field. Well, that's what we have. So in a world where most people don't believe it, that one of the big challenges is helping people understand and believe the product has the substance we're talking about, that the economic opportunity has the potential we're suggesting it does, and that the culture will stay true. In other words, that this branch won't break. You go to climb the tree and the branch breaks. Well, you start rethinking climbing a tree.
Right.
So
Well, it's one thing. I mean, one thing you're talking about is you a couple of words you used was belief. We talk about believe, belong, become, but to really succeed in this business, we've talked about a lot. People have to have belief in a few things. They have to belief in the product, belief in the company, belief in network marketing as a viable distribution, so you're proud of it, model, and belief in yourself, right? And maybe the fifth is belief in your support system, which Debbie and I and the Diamonds, Amy and Carolyn and Danielle, all the Diamonds have put together an incredible support system we have, Tyler. I mean, really, I could walk away and it just runs incredible. But as far as like this day we have coming up, April 17th, and there are a few seats left, and I know how valuable it is. And there, we have some people up in the villages in Florida who you've met, the Cheneys and the Kleins. They are just building, and they're coming back and bringing people because it's like you have to see this. You have to believe in the company is really, really important. So everybody's looking forward to being there, the ones that are coming, and anybody else that wants to come. We've got a few spots left. But you use the word motive, the motive of a company. You were very successful in the field that you were in before, in the insurance business, and you were very successful and you mentored people to be successful. So did your dad in his field. But this is a business where people have to be self-motivated. Like, I can't motivate people. You can't motivate them. Debbie can't motivate them. People say, they cry and say, I really want to change my life. And what I found is that it's really a question of belief. If they believe that they could be successful here, they would take action on a consistent basis and tweak what they're doing, right? So, and we do consistent Zooms all the time for people to bring people to, and we offer to mentor. What can you speak to, just because you always say things differently than I do, differently than almost anybody I've ever met, about if someone really wants something, they identify what they want, how do they use that to drive them to do the work that's needed and deal with the rejection that they're going to find when they talk to people about this? Say, it's okay, it's not your time, and just keep going and having more conversations. For motivation from within, how do you suggest people find that?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of maybe approaches to that. The first thing that comes to mind, excuse me, is do you know what you want? And by that I mean, I think we perjure ourselves a lot. I think we say we want something, but we don't really want it. So the first thing I would say, and I've taught for years, that if you take the word desire and you break it into two pieces, the prefix is DE. That means equal to or equivalent to. And then they have this back end suffix of sire. It's such an interesting word, right? Why does desire, we don't think of it this way, but it comes from the same derivative as a sire. So a sire, it can be a sire horse that fathers another horse. Bear with me, by the way, I'm going to cough here just a second. So sorry, that's just like the law of something that does that right when you're recording. So sire, a sire horse, sire is also a lord or a father. It can even be like a creator, like my sire or my lord. So this is interesting to me. I think we have more potential to create things, to sire or father or create something than we think. But I don't believe that saying it is enough. I think it really has to be born from a place of deep, meaningful want. And so that's the first thing. Anytime I find someone stuck, and by the way, I get stuck. I've been stuck in the last 6 months and I've had to go back to this same exercise saying, what is it that I want? Am I really clear on what I want? So start there. And then the other word that comes to my mind is the word decide. And I'm interested in words, as you guys know. The suffix or prefix is the same, de or equivalent to or equal to, and then this back end suffix is side, and you hear that in pesticide or genocide or or homicide, and you think, oh dear, that means to kill something. Well, it's the same concept of decide being decision is also incision. Comes from the same word, right? Precision, incision, decision. That means to cut. So you have this cut and this notion of sidle being something that is going to die or be killed, and decision comes from the same word as incision, to cut. And I think that once you know what you want, the next thing you have to do is decide, and you have to make a cut, and you have to kill something. Okay. Now, the good news is I'm talking figuratively. You don't have to kill anyone. You just have to kill something in you. That could be a mindset. That could be a use of your time. That could be giving people the power to influence or control you. That could be you've got to kill giving anyone else the power to make you feel something. You may have to kill and declare your independence from the weather. And by weather, I mean figuratively anything that could keep you from going forward. Yeah, someone just wrote in the chat fear, but you've got to kill and decide what it is you're going to do. So a lot of people don't even know what they want. That would be the desire. What do you want to sire, create, or father? And then from there, what do you need to kill or cut to manifest what it is that you desire? Now, there's a whole training I've done on that moves into declare it. There's another D word. So these are all D words. And it was desire, decide, declare, right? And then the next piece of it was to devote. And devote is interesting, right? Devote is to vow. And a vow or a pledge is a guarantee of future behavior. So you have to, like when you get married, you make your vows. It's a guarantee of a future behavior. It means that when presented with an opportunity to be unfaithful in any regard, emotionally, physically, or otherwise, I've already made a vow. And so the pledge is to a future behavior that can be banked on. So devotion is a really important part of it. It's also a votus, or devotus comes from the Latin of voting. It means you daily vote and you daily vow to be true to what you decided and declared. Okay. And then the last two are to develop, and that's interesting. Like develop comes from the same word as envelope, is develop, and they mean to surround with. And that's what I loved about the support system that you said. When I put something in an envelope, it's enveloped or surrounded, right? And then I can close that. It's the same derivative as develop. It means to volupate, means to be completely surrounded by. And I am utterly convinced that if you're trying to do this business and you're going alone, you're missing it. You've got to tap into the envelope of support and people that you will envelop yourself around to develop yourself. So the most accelerated development tracks in my life, if I go back and show the curve of my own personal development, I can then plot on that same curve the people I was around and the way they influenced me. Once you have the development track, which is really a function of the people you're around. So if you're hanging around your spouse or aunt, uncle, mom, mother-in-law, father-in-law that's taking shots at you every day for trying network marketing, you're in the wrong development envelopment. You with me? That's not where you want to be. What you need to do is step back from that envelopment of being around that and be enveloped with the right develop. You've got to get the right people around you that are interested and invested in your growth and development. Once you find that, the last word is to deliver. Right now, you're going to deliver what you want. So you started with a desire, you went to a decide or decision, you declare that, you make it known, you devote to yourself to that, the daily vow, the pledge of a future behavior that's guaranteed, meaning I am going to make the calls, I am going to do this on a daily basis. Then you develop, and that's a function of being around people on calls just like this, like you're invested in the process of being surrounded by people. Well, the last one is deliver. Well, that's interesting. What is liver? Liver is certainly an organ in the body, but that's not what it is. It's the Latin of liberare, to liberate. So if you want to be liberated from your current circumstance, situation, something that feels like a dead end, you want to get on the superhighway, but you feel like you're stuck in the cul-de-sac, right? Okay, step back. How clear do you know what you want on a desire level? What are you willing to kill or cut in decision, incision, or decide, homicide? Like you're going to take something out. It's going to be time. It's going to be any number of factors.
Sacrifice. It's sacrifice.
It's always a kill or a cut,
Yep.
right? You got to decide. And once you make that decision, then you're in. Now you've got to declare it to a group of people that are invested in your win. You can't like declare it to your spouse that's not excited about the time and money you're spending here, because they're just going to subtract from you. And trust me, I know the drill. Like I have a lot of people come up and say, oh, I'm doing this and my husband thinks I'm crazy or whatever. Okay, you need to declare it to a Debbie or to a David or to the people on this call. Then you've got to devote. And the devotion piece is really hard because the first three are all safe, right? I'm just writing in a journal or I'm just sharing this with my spouse. But the house of pain starts at devote. I mean, now you're stepping into each day, and now you're just every day you're trying to develop and do it. Then you move into develop because you're going to learn from your mistakes, and you want to be developed is how you're enveloped by the right people, what's around you. And if you do all that, you'll actually hit the deliver. You will be liberated from your background. But I'm telling you, it's not a microwavable deal. This is not something that you cook up in 45 seconds. So you've got to be kind to yourself. You got to be patient with yourself. You got to be willing to back the car up and say, I went down the wrong road. You've got to let people go that you felt like you invested so much in and they just didn't want it. You got to honor people's agency. You're going to have to start over a lot. Well, guess what all that sounds like to me? That sounds like life. That sounds like my family. That sounds like any number of things that are worth it. And so, yeah, don't get caught up in the idea that this is a microwavable, Powerball or lottery ball thing. It's not. It's a genuine business built around a substantive product in a beautiful culture that cares as much about how we get the result as the result itself, and coupled with a really, really uniquely powerful economic engine that deserves your attention. And if you're on this call, right, looking for something to be handed to you, that's not going to happen. But if you're on this call saying, I will bring the best of myself to this, and I won't put this on trial every day. Like, stop putting this on trial. Because a lot of people say, well, I did it for 2 years and I left, and I have 2 years experience doing this and it hasn't worked. And I say, actually, you at best have 1 year experience 2 times because you kept starting and stopping. So you can't leave a room you were never in. Get in the room. And by the way, if you don't want to do it, then tip hats. Be a product consumer and a customer and enjoy that side of it. But if you really want to do this, don't perjure yourself. Don't run around saying you want to do it and then end up not doing it. And that's hard to do. It's hard for me to do. It's hard for all of us to do, and the things that we know we should be doing differently. But anyway, I'm riffing. I probably went over, David. Sorry, but you get me going.
Powerful. Powerful. And Debbie, is there anything you want to ask? Because I'm going to bring Carolyn Hoffman up. And let me just tell you, Tyler, we have a call every Tuesday evening, every Monday morning. I do it every Saturday morning. We call it Ask the Doctor. And it really is, it's mostly product focused, pretty much. We talk about how people can get their product for free. Insurance doesn't pay for this, but you're a good person, you share it, you get remunerated, and you can take it far beyond that if you want to. But Dr. Hoffman, Carolyn and Paul very, very well. I'm going to bring her up too, just to add her to the spotlight. There she is.
Hey, Doc.
Hello there, Tyler.
Good to see you.
Waving your magic as usual with your words.
I have one quick question for you, Tyler,
Sure,
which
yeah.
I've never asked, but I would love to know. I've watched the massiveness of this technology and what it's doing for the world dawn on people, sometimes very slowly, sometimes they get it right away. And I was lucky enough to have a scientist that told me how massive it was, so I was all in. But I was just wondering about you and your father. He was working and he was going to sell it and all that kind of stuff. When do you think it dawned on him how really big this was and that he could leave a legacy to the world? And then when did it dawn on you?
Well, one thing is he was before me, and he loves to remind me of that. I think for my dad, my dad wasn't a terribly emotive person. So when we originally were introduced to the biotech company that owned some of these patents, they took an interest in him because of his background,
Right.
asked him to sit on the board of directors of the company, and he was unwilling to do that until he saw their science. And having run a biotech company for 4 or 5 years, he knew enough to be dangerous on what to look for. And so he definitely got to a place, at least of belief in the tech, well in advance of me, or for that matter, anybody else that I know of. My dad comes from a long line of intelligent, kind of solution-driven people, and he loves to puzzle and figure things out. So it was hard. It was really hard for him to not say, like, why is this doing what it's doing? How can this be? The elegance of this technology, it's so beautiful, by the way, that the longer I'm around it, the more beautiful it is to me, because it's energy based, it's truth based, it's got all these really cool dimensions to it. But to my dad's credit, I think he came to clarity with it. What was interesting was he never before in his career did he have any feedback loop from anything he made or sold. Quite to the contrary, I believe, where someone actually came to him and said, like, this has made a huge difference in my life. And the second my dad got that drug of having someone come back and thank him for making a difference, I think coupled with the concept of legacy, it started to compound and it started to accelerate. And I think that's why when dollars were offered, and they were significant, to make a pivot, I think he said to himself, well, wait a minute, what about all these people? He had never been in a product environment where the impact of a product could have a short feedback loop of such a nature. And frankly, the products my dad made and sold never would.
Right.
So he's having this unique experience where he's actually getting feedback mechanisms about having a meaningful impact on an individual. And that degree of intimacy had never occurred in my dad's career. And I believe the intimacy of actually knowing you helped someone across any degree of socioeconomic strata or any background became a really unique form of compensation for a man who didn't need money. And he
Beautiful.
just, I think that's what was it. I think he started feeling like, you know what, this is really beautiful. And then when the money came in and said, let it all go, he did a different form of math that day. He had never had to make a decision that was so intimate and real. And that was kind of a clash of corporate America meets like Main Street and a real family.
Mhm.
And that was real for him.
Beautiful.
In my case, it was a personal experience that had to happen, and I still didn't believe it, but it was very real. It's as real as me sitting in this chair right now. And it was real. And it was kids and a real family and a real mom and a real dad and a real house and a real challenge. And them running out of having exhausted all scenarios that they knew what to do. And then my dad in his arrogant, beautiful way telling me he was certain this would help. And
Right.
then, making me enough product to take it to them. And yeah, that was real. And that was a problem for me because I had to take it a little bit more seriously once I saw some of that effect it was having.
Thank you.
But
Yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks. I know everybody, he's traveling right now, and I said, please, please. He said, okay. And we love you. We all love you. And we, like I say, your dad's legacy. You were talking about how your dad never had this type of satisfaction. I was a doctor, right? I mean, I was a foot surgeon. I help people every day, but I never had this level of satisfaction. And it's because of you and your dad really having the principles and the vision. And we just love you, man. Looking forward to seeing you. We'll see you in Puerto Rico too. We'll see you in Dubai. We're going to see you everywhere over the next few months.
yeah, it'll be fun. I'll say this as I close. You guys are so kind to me and to dad and to others, but the fact of the matter is there is no ASEA without all of you. The miracle of ASEA is not in the bottle. The miracle in ASEA is not in the tech, it's in you. And we're committed to you. And I thank you for what you contribute to this every day. And appreciate it. And I'm grateful for your patience with us. I mean, we're trying our best, and we all are trying to do it, but we're genuinely appreciative of who you are, and thanks for being patient with us and our warts and frailties. And we're doing our best to move this forward, and glad to be doing it with all of you.
Well, you know what? Before you go, introduce Carolyn Hoffman, because she's on the medical board. She's about to start the presentation, and you can make the introduction. How's that? For all the guests that are popping on.
It's funny, and with Carolyn, for me at least, is just how credible you are, Carolyn. I just am so thankful to have somebody. I think you're kind of a no-nonsense, real, very credible person with a really good heart. And I love when people with your degree of intellect and who could really be choosing a lot of different ways to go about bringing value to the world. You're marrying your background, your expertise, certainly as a doctor and a professional of seeing how people interact with health and otherwise, and then marrying it with us and our technology and the magic you're creating. You're waving your magic wand every day. So you're telling me I am with words, but you're doing it with the real stuff. And everyone that's on this call who hasn't heard Doc is going to be in a real treat here in just a minute. Big fan.
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys,
Yes.
I'm going to jump off. Best to all of you. Thanks for
Thanks,
letting me.
Tyler.
Thanks so much.
See you in a few
Bye-bye.
weeks.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, Carolyn, Dr. Hoffman, you're going to be taking over here. Who is Lynn on? Is she helping you?
No, actually, Dawn is helping me for this couple
Oh,
of
no,
weeks.
let me make Dawn a.
Yeah, we need to make her a
I didn't
co-host.
know. I got it. Hi,
Yeah,
Dawn.
she did a great job last week, and she's in the saddle again this week for us.
Well, let's bring her up on here too. Where's the spotlight?
I promised somebody I would be on their team phone call tonight, so I'm
You're-
leaving. I've got somebody watching you, Carolyn.
Thanks,
That sounds ominous.
Debbie, do you want to stop the recording?
Yes, I will do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and send me the file.